Okay, hi everyone. This lecture is going to be on functional training and posture. And just like all the other lectures, they'll be short mini lectures that are going to be combined into one large lecture. So we're going to start just by reviewing some basic anatomical terminology and make sure we all have kind of this base level of knowledge before we go into what actual functional training is. And many of you probably are thinking, I've learned this stuff already, I've gone through anatomy and physiology, but for some of you, it's been a few years. And so we just want to go over and make sure you understand some of these terms. So like origin, insertion point, the action of each muscle. If those are bringing back some memories of anatomy, hopefully that's a good thing. So remember, in anatomy, there's things that we learn, right? We know that the quadriceps are responsible for extending and straightening the knee. But what we need to know as trainers, right, is what does that do in real life function? What are the ADLs that a quadricep is responsible for? And so things that are going to strengthen the quadriceps is really important. So knowing what the quadricep does as far as actual movement, and then also knowing how to strengthen that muscle is really, really important. So just a brief overview and review of some of these terminologies. So our origin is the attachment site. And remember, that's that area that doesn't move during contraction, right? So origin for a bicep curl would be the scapula, okay? Insertion is the attachment site that moves during contraction. So origin, that's where it starts. It doesn't move during contraction. Insertion is where the muscle actually inserts into, and that actually does move during contraction. Okay, so again, bicep curl, insertion would be the radius, origin would be the scapula. So let's go ahead and go over some other term review, and I want you right now just pause, and I want you to write down or think about what your definition for agonist muscle, antagonist muscle, and then synergist muscle. So if you could write down those three definitions for agonist, antagonist, and synergist, pause it, and then once you're done doing that, go ahead and push play. So agonist, hopefully you got these right, is the muscle responsible for the movement. That is the muscle responsible for contraction. Antagonist is the opposite muscle, right? That's the muscle that's responsible for relaxing. Okay, so the antagonist relaxes while the agonist contracts. And then synergist is going to be the muscle or muscles that support the agonist during that movement. So if we look at this figure, right, what you can see right now is you can see that during a bicep curl, our agonist is going to be our biceps, right? Because that's the muscle or muscles that are being contracted. The triceps are relaxing, right? So that's our antagonist. And most likely when we're thinking about our synergist, that's going to be some sort of the deltoid joint or one of the deltoid muscles. Let's do another anatomical review question. So what is the structure that attaches a muscle to bone? Is it a myofilament, a ligament, a tendon, or a sarcomere? I want you to pause, think for your answer, and when you're ready, push play. If you guessed tendon or knew tendon, you are correct. Tendons are the anatomical structure that attaches a muscle to a bone. Okay, really important that we know that. Okay. Here's another question for you. The pectoralis major is involved in the bench press, in which the arm flexes towards the middle of the body. This muscle is proximally attached to the shoulder via the clavicle and chest via the sternum, while distally attached to the humerus. Right now, I want you to think through, given that information, what is the origin and the insertion of the pectoralis major? Pause, and when you're ready, push play. If you said the origin is the sternum and the clavicle, you are correct. And the insertion is the humerus. So if you have any questions as far as why the sternum and the clavicle is the origin for the pectoralis major and the humerus is the insertion for the pectoralis major, let's talk during lab and I'm happy to help you walk through that process. Here's another question for you. The latissimus dorsi is responsible for the bulk of the adduction of the arm. And remember, adduction is kind of bringing it back towards the middle of the body. The teres major is a much smaller muscle that helps to start adduction of the arm when it is fully extended. Which of the following best describes the role of the latissimus dorsi and the teres major, respectively? So essentially what this is asking is, what is the role of the latissimus dorsi And then what's the role of the teres major, right? So is the role of the latissimus dorsi an agonist, synergist, antagonist, or those are our three options, right? Or is the role of the teres major the synergist, agonist, or antagonist? So look at the options that are given, spend a moment thinking through it, and when you have your answer, go ahead and push play. If you guessed agonist and synergist, you are correct. Moving on to different planes of motion and anatomical positions, and again, hopefully this is a review for you. Okay, so if you know our planes of motion, what we do know is that there's 3 different planes of motion. We'll spend time on the next slide really going into that. Okay, but we also need to remember that there's different anatomical positions, right? So if you can see how the person is standing right now with their palm facing forward, that is anatomical position. So anytime we say something like supine or prone or medial or lateral, distal and proximal, those are all terminologies in reference to that anatomical position. Here are the 3 planes of the body, and it's really important that we know these 3 planes because as you're going to find here when we get into the functional training, part of functional training is making sure that we are training in multi-planes. And when we say multi-plane, we're saying frontal and coronal plane, sagittal plane, as well as transverse plane, okay? So frontal plane, you can kind of see that. It's also known as coronal plane. This is that one that goes kind of right down the center and divides your body in forward half and the back half, right? So it's a vertical plane that runs from side to side, okay, and it divides your body in anterior and then posterior portions. The sagittal plane is one that most of us are very comfortable training in, right? It's a vertical plane that runs front to back and it divides the body into left and then right, and you can kind of see that on this picture here. Okay, so when we think about sagittal plane movements, we're thinking about movements that are going this direction. Okay, transverse plane is a horizontal plane, and that divides the body or any of its parts in the upper parts, and then the lower parts. Okay, so not only is it important that you know these 3 planes of the body, okay, and again, hopefully this is all review, but it's important that we can train in those 3 different planes. So let's go ahead and pause. Our next video will be more on functional training.